isn't it? Sounds like a shot.
to try and preserve this unit. At the time, it had just finished being used as a ultrasonic test train at Derby. We were given a target of 3,500 to raise, which was one hell of a struggle. And then when we achieved that, they said, oh, it's got blue asbestos, so that needs to be removed. And you've got to cost 30,000 altogether. So at that point, we almost gave up. But Sheridan Payne, who was organising all this at the time, and he was quite determined that this could be saved, having lost historic vehicles like S10,000. Which they're building a replica of the shed over there. I recommend if you go and have a look around if you get the chance. So, having founded the group in 1990, it was actually 1994 before we actually got our hands on it, or at least managed to purchase it. It then went to Doncaster, where it was for several years, and in 1997 it arrived at Butterley to start the restoration. And that was when our troubles really started, because we ended up with 2 empty shells basically, and a pile of bits. It's like having a huge jigsaw and no picture. So we were fortunate in a way that we managed to get a scrap 108 car, which is a Derby, there's a later version of this, virtually identical except for the cabs, which are steel, and these are aluminium. It was found in practice that there was a weakness with the front end, and that's why the classic Derby design superseded these. But in taking the 108 apart, we learned how they were put together, and that was a great benefit when we came to do this. So most of the interior, where we could, we reused what we could to keep it as historical correct as possible, and we've recreated woodwork and various other bits to fill in what we were missing. We got a lottery grant which we used to do mostly the interior of the powercar. That appeared at Severn Valley in 2004 for the 50-year celebrations. This launch was planned to take place last year, but for various reasons it didn't. And so that would have been 70 years. But stretching the point slightly, these units were brought into service between November 1954 and February 1955, so you could stretch a point and say it's still 70 years just. So the power car, as I say, that was done, and then we started on this. But the problem is that in the time that we got this done, the power car's deteriorated. And that's in the shed up on stands for the moment. The interior's largely done except for the cab. There's still quite a lot to do underneath. We've got the engines refurbished. Gearboxes, I think, are both installed. We're slowly working our way through the process. And the next big job is to get the bogies done. They've got to go away to have the tyres returned and be checked over. So that's where we are at the moment. We've got, if the members of the Derby Lightweight Group would like to make themselves known to me, we've reserved the first class compartment for the members. There's only 9 seats unfortunately, so I'm not sure what we're going to do with more than 9 of us. But the rest of it, everybody is welcome to go into, join us on the trip. Looking around, I think we've probably have enough seats to accommodate everybody. And we've got a bottle of wood or bubbly to
memory. We would like to have shared this all with you, but we didn't know how many to expect. Was it going to be 6 or 600, you know? So unlike a wedding reception, we didn't know how many we were getting. And sorry, it's going to be the coach that's the beneficiary of this. If you'd like to see our unit working as a twin, please, I'm the treasurer, please consider being a member or helping us or donating towards the bogies, because it looks as though it's still going to be some years before we can manage to get them running together, and we desperately would like to bring that forward. Now, how good to celebrate, say, next year or a couple of years' time on this same platform with a complete unit running, and probably finished in green then. This is finished in blue as a useful exercise so you can see what they were like in that period, but it was a quick way of getting it protected from the elements. When we use the green, it's got to have lining out, and that's how both will look, hopefully, when we get them restored together. This is now the official launch of the unit, and I think our chairman's going to do the honours over the buffer beam up here if you want to get a photo.
Sorry.
Okay, ready now then. 3, 2, 1. It is a health and safety issue.